Hello, everyone. I'm Tamara Banks, and welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, and is presented by Denver 8 TV. Our mission today is to present a candidate forum in anticipation of the coordinated election coming up on Tuesday, November 7th. Among other offices, this election includes the candidates vying for the position of Director of the Denver Public School Board. In this case, from District 2. District 2 is located in South Central and Southwest Denver. Our format is a pretty standard one. The candidates will have timed opening and closing statements. That will be followed by rounds of questions that have been submitted by the organizers of this forum, as well as several DPS students who are members of the Mayor's Youth Commission. Since we do have a time limit, we may not be able to get to all of the submitted questions. All candidates will answer all questions, and all questions will be timed, and all their answers will be timed. Our timers are out front so the candidates can see them. So let's begin by meeting the candidates vying to become a member of the Denver Public School Board from District 2. A reminder to our studio audience, please hold your applause until all the candidates have been introduced. The candidates are standing left to right, facing the audience in order that their names will appear on the November ballot. So beginning at my immediate left is Angela Cobian. To her left is Xochitl Gaitan. Let's welcome our candidates to our forum. And one more note to the candidates. On behalf of the forum organizers, the audience here tonight, and our viewers at home, we sincerely urge you to be honest, direct, and forthright to help the voters distinguish one candidate from the other. We'll begin with opening statements from each candidate. We will proceed in ballot order with these statements. So once again, starting at my immediate left, Angela Cobian. We'll begin with your opening statement.
Thank you so much. Buenas noches. My name is Angela Cobian, and I'm a teacher turned organizer, as well as a candidate for District 2. My experience as the first in my family to go to college and to come back to teach in my community taught me that when our students and our schools thrive, Denver thrives. And it is time that the school board is led by somebody who knows what it's like to be in the classroom, hold our public officials accountable, and be good stewards of public funds. I taught second and third grade in Denver public schools, and while I was teaching, I also earned my master's degree in curriculum and instruction. I further developed my leadership skills by teaching teachers in Mexico City as a Fulbright Scholar. Finally, I have managed large budgets as the trustee of the Colorado College, as well as a member of the Community Planning and Advisory Committee on the 2016 Bond and Mill Levy. I am excited to act on my experiences as a successful teacher and organizer and lead Denver Public Schools alongside you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now an opening statement from Xochitl Gaitan.
Thank you, Tamara. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I believe that education leads us all into prosperity. And my name is Xochitl Gaitan, Denver School Board candidate for District 2. I am the candidate that will bring real-life experience to the boardroom. I'm the mother of 2 sons that attended Denver Public Schools. I myself graduated from DPS. I'm a civic leader as president of the Harvey Park Neighborhood Group. I'm a small business owner with a real estate license, working with it over 15 years now. And I bring business world experience to the boardroom. I am the candidate that will keep Lincoln High School open. I will also work toward reducing the standardized testing because it is ineffective, inefficient, and very costly. I am also the candidate that will support and listen and show value to our local teachers. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Xochitl. And now for our first question for the candidates. And each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. We'll begin with reverse order. We'll begin with Xochitl Gaitan. The question is, the U.S. District Court decree of 2012 is a court-ordered plan for serving for serving English language learners in Denver schools. What would you do to fully implement it, and why is it important?
Thank you, Tamara. To fully implement the plan, the decree that you just mentioned for our English as a second language learners, we must look at hiring additional staff that would be people of color so that our students have someone to look up to and have someone that our teachers can empathize with our students. It's very important to me that our students have those faces of color to be able to learn what they should be learning. So that piece, I believe, is what's missing in DPS, and we need to work on improving that. Thank you.
Okay, now, Angela Cobian.
Sure. I actually taught, and my designation was English Language Acquisition Spanish, which is actually a component in the consent decree's application. What I would do to strengthen this, having seen what it looks like from early elementary on to having students be able to exit the program, is to actually ensure that our teachers are trained in this model, because over half of the students in District 2 are actually emerging multilingual students. So it's very important that the teachers are able to support English language learners because they have highly complex learning profiles that need to be made sure that they are targeted. And secondly, I think that I would also advise the district on doing parental rights and education on what their rights and responsibilities are under this consent decree. One thing that many people don't know is that being designated an English language learner means that your rights are supported by federal law.
All right. Thank you both. All right, on to the next question. And we'll start now with you, Angela. Do you have plans for making the school board meetings more accessible to the public, given the downtown location of the administration building and lack of access to free parking?
Yes, this is actually a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. After I left the classroom, I came back to work as a community organizer with Together Colorado. This means that I worked and coached with parent organizing teams, many of them the very parents of my students, precisely so that they could demand that the district make the education system work for them. And I think being able to civically participate during school board meetings is the bare minimum. They need to make it more like the superintendent parent forums, where transportation is provided, translation services are provided, and childcare is provided. And in that way, parents will be able to actively participate in those school board meetings in their language, and also the district can take into account what it's like to be a working parent. I remember many times when I ran our parent meetings, I needed to make sure that we had multiple babysitters on call that could take care of the parents' additional children. So yes, I would definitely plan on making sure that these meetings were more accessible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Gaitan.
Yes, most certainly, as Denver School Board, we do need to work on improving accessibility to our families. One of the things I would like to do is to be able to take our board meetings to our local neighborhood schools. We should be able to present the information at the local level to our families. It's very important that we provide the language services, interpretation services to our families that they need. We also need to be able to improve on the information as to when it's taking place, the time, etc. And one of those things that we need to do is to ensure that it's showing up on the website, as I believe that those are some pieces that need improving. As president of my neighborhood group, I know how important it is that we're listening to our constituents and to our families. So I believe that we need to take our meetings to the local level and to our neighborhood schools to be able to listen to the concerns so that we can take action on some of those concerns happening in each community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now for this round, we have a special guest to ask the question. I'd like to introduce Eric Webb, who's a member of the Mayor's Youth Commission, the group that submitted some of the questions on the form. Eric, come on up, welcome, and thank you for being here. You have the lectern, and your first person you will ask will be Sochi.
Hi, thank you. All right, so how do you plan to include student voice in your decision-making as a member of the board?
Eric, thank you. Thank you for the question, Eric. I really appreciate that. I believe that one of the reasons that I'm running is to ensure that our students have a voice and have that power. It's important for me as a civic leader, a community leader, that we're listening. We're listening to our students. And that means that our Denver School Board members should be visiting classrooms and should be visiting at our neighborhood levels. We should be going into your classrooms, asking questions, doing small town halls or forums in the auditoriums of our high schools, especially so that we can hear from student voice. I would also support any legislation that would allow our students to vote in our Denver School Board elections. That would also be of great importance to me. So supporting our legislators that would maybe move a bill forward for that. Thank you.
Thanks for asking that question. So I have lots of ideas as to how I would incorporate student voice into the governance process. The first is I would do exactly what I did when I was a teacher. I would simply ask my students how they would want to be incorporated. And I've been doing that actually throughout my campaign. In my campaign, I have had 3 different student advisors, one who is a recent college grad, another one who is still in Denver Public Schools, and I asked them, what do you think we need to do? And an idea that we brainstormed together was actually having quarterly town halls at their own high schools where the agenda is created by the students at that high school themselves, which is something that I had also had experience doing as a community organizer. When I organized parishioners at my home parish of St. Cajetan, we wanted to improve relationships with the Denver Police Department, and what did we do? We were the first precinct to actually have the cabinet in the community in the basement of our church where our parishioners created the agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice job, Eric. Thank you. Eric will be back for at least one more round of questions. Good job. Our next round of questions, we start with Angela. From a substitute teacher in the Denver Charter Schools for over 5 years. In the schools, I've been in Strive, KIPP, and DSST. I've noticed an almost 60% turnover in staff every 2 years. Is this a concern for current and future board members, and are there any solutions?
That's a tremendously good question. It is absolutely a concern of mine. Having been a teacher, I know what it's like to be making sure that your students are growing, despite the fact that your students have things outside of their control that they can't control. I had 3 different students whose parents ended up in detention and deportation proceedings. And the impact that that had on me as a teacher meant that I had to be a social worker, I had to find legal advice, and while I was honored to do that, it absolutely had an impact on my workload. So the question of teacher turnover is not unique to charter schools or innovation schools. And when they are, we need to address those specifically because charter schools and innovation schools have unique governance models, and we need to do root cause analyses to find out what it is that's causing that turnover in the first place. But having been a teacher, I know that some of the things that we could do to make our career more sustainable is to instill it with dignity, make sure that we're at the table when decisions are made, and have a living salary.
Okay. Thank you. Sochi.
Thank you. Yes, it is a great concern of mine, and what I would want to fight for and ensure that we discuss in the boardroom is that we discuss policies that ensure that we are hiring teachers with state licensing. One of the things that many charter schools, innovation schools are not doing is hiring teachers with state licensure. And instead, we're hiring teachers that stay only for about a year approximately, and there's a very high turnover rate in charter schools. This is of grave concern as teachers, young teachers, leave and don't stick around long enough to build relationships with our students. This is just very saddening and disheartening to find out that, that there's this high turnover rate of teachers in our charter schools. It's important to me that we have these policies in place and that we are protecting our communities from that happening, because that directly impacts and affects our students, especially our students of color, because we tend to have a higher percentage of charter schools in our lower income communities.
Okay. Thank you. All right, one more round of pre-submitted questions from our candidates vying for position on the Denver Public School Board for District 2. Let's welcome back Eric Webb.
Thank you. Should the school board change its policy for school closures? If so, how should it be changed and why?
Yes, thank you, Eric, for the question. I do believe that they should be working on changing the policy. When I become a school board member, that would be one of the things that I want to work on immediately, to have that tough conversation, a very candid conversation about how quickly they're moving, how fast they're moving on school closure. It's important to me that they give our neighborhood public schools an opportunity to be able to work on improving anything necessary to improve on at the school. And we must be looking at our community and asking our parents and our families what they would like to see, what they want to see, and the changes that we need before closing a school. Our current school board is moving way too quickly to close our schools, and it's really impacting our communities negatively. Again, I repeat, when they're closing the schools, they're closing schools where we have lower to middle income families, and most of our families are children of color. And we need to be looking at, and it's a grave concern of mine, on how that process is going to take place.
Yes, so I draw directly back to my teaching experience at this moment in time. I taught at Cole Arts and Sciences Academy, which at the time was the only school to have been shut down by the state twice. So I saw the impact that had on my students and their families. And again, having been an organizer, I like to abide by something that says, those who are farthest away from the pain can afford to philosophize about it. So what does that mean practically for the school closure policy? I believe that we need to look closely at what is working in our schools in order to improve them. And one policy that I would highlight is the Year Zero policy. The Year Zero policy allows a whole year of planning and co-design with school leaders and parents so that they can design the school that they want to come to and be a part of. And Goldrick and Schmidt are two schools in my district that I think are good examples of that, as we've been able to see in their most recent student achievement data, which is so great.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And thank you, Eric. We are going to go to the lightning round. So this is always fun. Everybody can take a breath now. Kind of exhale, right? This kind of moves fairly rapidly. I get to ask you pretty straightforward question. I hope it's straightforward. And you get to answer yes or no. Okay, no explanation, no background, yes or no. All right. Let's begin. So I'll start with Angela. You'll go first, then Sochi. There are currently 44 high schools in DPS. In your opinion, is that a good number?
Yes.
No.
We'll start with you, Sochi. The Aurora School District has just added a security screen for all visitors. All visitors must present an ID so staff can check name dates against a public database of registered sex offenders. Would you support a similar check for DPS?
Yes.
No.
Do you support competency-based grading versus seat time?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you support co-location?
No.
Pass?
You can pass. All construction workers on DPS grounds are drug tested. Would you support drug testing for teachers?
No.
Yes.
Do you support DPS's current graduation requirement of 4 years of math?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's give the candidates a big round of applause. Quick thinking on your feet. For the next few minutes, we're going to be, it's going to be the candidates' turn to ask a question of one another. So each of you will ask your question of your opponent, and hopefully your opponent will give you an answer. We will reverse the ballot order and begin with Sochi Gaitan. Sochi, you will ask Angela a question, and Angela, you will have 1 minute to answer.
Okay. Angela, do you support co-location, the practice of putting multiple charter schools into the same building with our neighborhood schools?
Thanks for that question, Sochi. I think that question has to do very specifically with the different communities at hand. It is hard to generalize based on different instances on whether or not that's a good choice or a bad choice. What I can do is reference back an experience I had with one of our high school interns in my job. Her name is Nayeli. Nayeli is a 1-year recent grad from Lincoln, and she expressed a lot of distaste and disgust with the way that co-location at Lincoln was happening. And her and I talked about it, and we really narrowed it down to 3 factors that make co-location work and, by the opposite, not work. One is intentional planning among school leaders. The second is equitable access to facilities and resources. And the third is student governance in that model. So that, again, we are putting the most directly impacted people at the center of those decisions.
Okay, thank you. Angela, now your turn.
Yes. Sochi, I was an English language acquisition Spanish teacher, and this, as we heard in the intro, is deeply connected to the application of the consent decree. My question for you is, between English language acquisition Spanish and English language acquisition English, what do you think is the best course to do in the classroom with students who are English language learners?
I myself was an English language learner. I'm bilingual in Spanish, fully bilingual, immersed in both languages since I was a very young girl. And I understand the concern of our parents and our families learning both languages. And it's important to me that our children are immersed, especially if they're second language learners, and it could be Vietnamese, it could be the Spanish language, any other second language that our students are learning. It's important to me that our children are immersed in their language and they're learning in both languages. For the same reason, it's important that our teachers aren't forced to be putting our children into the position where they're taking standardized tests in a language that they're not ready to take a test in. So that in itself is of grave concern of mine, that our children are well prepared to be taking standardized tests in the language, in the English language that they're expected to learn in such a short period of time. So yes, it's important to me that our children are immersed in both languages when they're learning.
All right, thank you both. We'll do another round of one-on-one. Angela, you get to ask the question first to Sochi. Sochi, you get 1 minute to answer.
Sochi, school choice is a hot topic among communities right now. And I read on your website that you even moved from Ruby Hill to Harvey Park to be able to choose a school for your child. My neighbor, Alfredo, can't afford to do that. So what would you say to a parent like Alfredo that can't afford to move neighborhoods to access a better school when they're trying to identify a school that fits his daughter the best because she has learning differences?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. To me, the word choice has been taken from us from the reform movement. It's important that we give that word back to our communities and to our families. We moved from one neighborhood to another as we were looking for a new home, and we found a wonderful quality, strong quality neighborhood school, and that was the school that we sent our child to. The next school was going to be a middle school. When that school was closed, that was our neighborhood middle school, and that was a strong quality choice for us. And that choice was taken from us when the district decided to close the middle school. And it's important to me that we not take that choice of having a strong neighborhood school in the community in which you live in. When people talk about choice and our reformers talk about choice, it's very important that we understand and that we know that all of our families that are looking for schools are looking to their closest school, which is their neighborhood school, and they're looking for it to be a strong quality neighborhood school. It's very difficult for our families to travel if they don't have a vehicle to get there.
Thanks. Thank you. Sochi?
Yes, Angela, I've heard from multiple parents that you're using the school board campaign as a stepping stone to become mayor of Denver. If you care about our public schools, why does it show on public record that you have not voted in the last 2 school board elections?
Thanks for that question, Sochi. I'm so sorry to hear that parents are thinking that. if I wanted to take on additional work that was unpaid, I surely would not use school board as a stepping stone. I really love my job as a community organizer because I get to work with the constituencies that I care about the most. That's parents, that's students, and that's teachers. And I'm running for school board because I remember what it was like to step onto my first day at Colorado College in my first class and realize that I was so far behind and that I had to take a whole year of remedial classes in writing in addition to my course load at Colorado College so that I could keep up. So I'm running because I think that the school board needs a teacher who's going to be able to fight for our kids and our teachers. And I will be able to act on my experiences as a successful teacher and as a successful parent organizer.
All right. Thank you both.
You're welcome.
That brings us to the end of our Q&A segment of the program. Now we move to closing statements. Each candidate will have a minute and a half for closing statements, and we will reverse the order of the opening statements, which means we will start with Xochitl Gaitan. Ms. Gaitan, you now have 90 seconds for your closing statement.
Thank you, Tamara. To summarize my vision here tonight, I believe that an equitable education will lead us all into prosperity. My name is Xochitl Gaitan. I'm a strong advocate for quality neighborhood schools. And what does this look like? First of all, every child should have a quality neighborhood school to walk to and not worry about transportation, a school that is not under the threat of closure. Second, our teachers are not miracle workers, and we must ensure that we show our teachers the respect and the support and the value that they deserve. Third, I believe that we must complete an external audit on the $1 billion budget that DPS is working with. We must ensure that the taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely and that we're directing those dollars into the classroom where they need them. I live and I work in the Southwest Denver community, and this is why I'm running. Please join me. Vote Xochitl Gaitan for Denver School Board District 2. Again, Xochitl Gaitan. Help me ensure that we will protect public education. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. And now,
Sure.
Angela.
As a proud supporter of public schools, and having been raised in Southwest Denver, I absolutely look forward to being your next school board member. I know what it's like to be inside a classroom that is 98 degrees by 10 a.m. We need to select and fix our infrastructure in our schools. We need to expand early childhood education and access to that, because I know as a teacher and as someone who has friends who have little kids on waiting lists that we need to be able to serve children from the time that they enter the classroom at 3 or 4 and continue to support them on their way to college or a career. And I will do that because I know what it's like to be in the classroom, to design curriculum. I even know what it's like to teach teachers. I spent a whole year in 2014, you can check out my LinkedIn, teaching teachers in Mexico City. And that was one of the reasons why I wasn't voting in the school board election. And I'm so ready to make sure that our students are prepared when they enter either college or a career, but that it's a choice. And that choice is not made for them by their economic circumstances. And with your vote, I'll be able to act on those experiences and make sure that our students grow alongside with Denver and aren't displaced by it.
All right. Thank you so much,
You're
both
very
of you.
welcome.
Now it's the audience's turn. Let's show our appreciation to the candidates for their hard work and their participation. Thank you. Thank you both. We want to thank and acknowledge students from the Mayor's Youth Commission who submitted questions for the candidate forum, and Eric Webb, who participated in this forum. Thank you, Eric. And our thanks also to Denver Decides partners, which include Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, and the League of Women Voters of Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Remember, the election is Tuesday, November 7th. Let your voice be heard. Be sure you're registered to vote and go out and vote. For complete information, go online to denverdecides.org. I'm Tamara Banks. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.